In the land of Shadow, Miquella awaits the return of his promised lord. It finally happened. We have information about Elden Ring's expansion, Shadow of the Erdtree. It is releasing June 21st later in the year. In this 3-minute presentation, we have entirely real gameplay of the DLC. And while 3 minutes might seem a pittance after just shy 2 years of waiting, I'll take this happily, especially when it's absolutely packed. In this video, I'm covering everything I possibly can. We will talk interesting lore theories, but it will be slightly lighter on that than I'd like, as this is my initial reaction and early first thoughts. Those of you who haven't checked, there is more information on the official website where we learn some really important details. It says, the land of Shadow, a place obscured by the Erdtree, where the goddess Marika first set foot. A land purged in an unsung battle, set ablaze by Messmer's flame. It was to this land that Miquella departed, divesting himself of his flesh, his strength, his lineage, of all things golden. Now, Miquella awaits the return of his promised lord. So the land of Shadow, that's the official name for the place we're going in this DLC. Miquella was obviously absent from the trailer until the end, where we see what seems to be very likely him, a glowing gold character, the yellow braided hair. It certainly does seem like Miquella, though it does look like Miquella's pretty big there. Miquella's whole thing is that he was cursed to be eternally young. Miquella did a lot of things to try to solve his problems and the, problems within the lands between. He made a cocoon of himself in a tree compared to the Erdtree called the Halig tree. You see where he was ripped from the cocoon, stolen, and put into a new cocoon, like a caterpillar taken from its cocoon before the full transformation to butterfly. Then placed in another cocoon that seems to have gone wrong. We find Miquella in our game Elden Ring physically bigger, but he lays dormant and looks like shriveled like a corpse. And some sort of character says, "Come now, touch the withered arm and travel to the realm of Shadow. I will not be far behind, may we meet again." But that seems to be how we're going to enter this land of Shadow, where things are very twisted and different. The centerpiece of it all is these two trees with one wrapping around the other. The main tree stands high but is being dragged down sideways by the other that's wrapping around it. It is my belief then that much like other DLCs in the From Software series of games, we're going to be entering this DLC midway through our original main story in Elden Ring. So let's now cover all the gameplay and characters we see within this trailer. From the top, we have an opening shot of what looks like almost Lindell, and terrain that we've been looking at from one image for a full year. We see the player riding through that terrain, represented by the Wolf Knight once again, with Torrent by our side, which makes sense. Imagine if you had to walk everywhere. We get this nice high-on view of this area, risen platforms above each other, different structures built on, different connecting bridges between them. We're going to move through this area under this new tree, and very clearly there's a center where there's a tower in the middle that now doesn't really look like Lindell, that we're definitely going to go to at some point. Very interestingly, when you look up, you can see there's a kind of canopy creating this space. The tree's holding it up, and it's like a cloth that, envelops this place. This dream world or shadow world, it's hidden within this shroud. It's pretty cool to see this literal cloth up in the sky. I'm sure if you in-game have a look up, you'll see it from many places. It does look like the world and time of day will continue to change. It's not always going to be in that dusk state we've seen originally, as we see this night area, or at least some darkness. But now we're going to be hit with different characters and details. There's this person with a new armor set, an engraved face helmet, a very fancy looking greatsword. It feels very Roman, gladiatorial. And with the Colosseums in the original game, we know that's a vibe to expect. And that's very clearly going to be relevant when we talk about Messmer. Next, we have a larger NPC kneeling on his knees with a pot he was peering into and then looking up. I don't think this character with a pot is an accident, but we don't have much to go on with his just big heavy armor and relatively simple looking pot design. Progressing on, we have a shot of what maybe is a dark cave. It's not exactly a surprise that there's going to be lots of underground areas to explore. Just like the original, we're expecting really dense layers to the area we're playing in. Somewhere we have a chapel with all these disarrayed pews, well out of use, and a character that's sitting on a throne awaiting us approaching them. A very familiar scene. Hard to know whether it's going to be a friendly or, boss type enemy, but they're wearing a deep blue robe and have this golden adornment like royalty. There's a lot of consideration about this being Renala or someone associated with her, but it's definitely early to say. But then we have a much worse looking area, dare I say it, swamp? The ground here is cracked and almost heated up. The air looks pungent and horrible. The trees are just dead. And there's this mysterious shot of an old man with darkened eyes and a figure behind touching her belly, so maybe pregnant. There's definitely going to be a lot of meaning to that image. And again, I'm going to reference Messmer later on. As we continue, we see this shot of inside of a kind of tower, passing by all these hanging jars. This definitely reminds me more of warrior jars. The different sizes, the shape, the rim at the top, the pattern on them. This could maybe be a place where they make them. We have this different shot of a lava section, this huge chained thing leaning down into the lava. At the bottom, you see how it's rotating with something mechanical. So maybe it's draining that lava for some purpose or point at the other end. We know pyromancy and lava and fire is going to be relevant. Next, we have a very interesting shot. Off to the side of the main area, as we can tell, there's the tips of the tree creeping into the frame there. We have a large structure that's getting higher and higher. And at the top left, you can see how it goes up to this raised platform that leads to nothing. And in fact, as you get further and higher up, the structure darkens, becomes shrouded. Pieces of it start to break away and are literally floating up into the sky, which actually reminds me of Farah Missoula, right? You can see the cloth above draping over this section as well. I'm wondering whether this is kind of a outer barrier area right on the edge of where this terrain even exists. Maybe as it gets towards the edge, anything that goes near it begins to like break and disintegrate. All right, moving on, we have some more interesting stuff to look at. We have a giant fire enemy, obviously a big boss. This reminds me of those giant wicker men from Celtic paganism. They used these large wicker statues to imprison humans and animals. They'd trap them within, and by burning the wicker men with those inside, this would be how they would do sacrifices by druidic types. You've got to wonder then if that's the inspiration for this. What is inside our fire giant friend there? We have this new horrible enemy with a delightful command grab on display. A worm or eel or leech type that grabs you and starts to consume you. You can actually see how it has, I think, 4 eyes on either side of its head, which is absolutely just delightful. Here's an iconic boss enemy. Seems to be multiple things at once, different creatures sort of slammed together. There's definitely a theme around different weird animals being combined in this. You see its foot step forward like a man's, much like Morgoth, but then the reveal is something more confusing and horrifying, like a nightmare creature. You've got a giant lion head with a big jaw, right? But it has a second jaw, a second row of teeth within that. It moves and fights in a weird way, and you can see when it's standing upright at the bottom, there's a pair of sort of man legs just standing and holding it up. This is kind of like grafting from OG Elden Ring, but it looks less man-made, less stitched together, much more cleanly connected, like it was born this way. Either way, it's definitely interesting. It has lightning or divine power of its own as it goes into what must be phase 2 and using incantations. Okay, next we have a big one, a character we actually have a name for who appears to be the main villain, at least for the trailer, and lots of details around it. He has some words for us throughout the trailer, and he says, "Mother, would you truly sanction lordship for one bereft of light?" Referencing the fact that we're still attempting to become an Elden Lord and how yet we're tarnished. This gives us context of the time and place of where we are, like I said, before we're an Elden Lord. So before the final events of OG Elden Ring. With this character saying mother like that, you gotta wonder who he means. Well, it definitely seems like it's Marika. Based on that description on the official website, the Land of Shadow is a place obscured by the Erdtree, and it is where goddess Marika first set foot. So she came here and very clearly had a child, that being Messmer. So again, maybe that image we saw of that painting, maybe that was Marika and her pregnant with Messmer. Why do we not know anything about this character though, if he's literally the son, a child of Marika, and with the red hair, maybe even Radagon? It could be a similar storyline to what we saw in the Souls series, with the son of Gwyn, the nameless king character in Dark Souls 3, stripped from history for what terrible thing he might have done. Messmer has these incredible pyro powers and is closely connected to a snake theme, like Rykard. The whole Roman Colosseum thing I mentioned earlier, that's a thing in original Elden Ring, and snakes are an important theme. They're tied to traitors. Gladiators that we fight in the game might have snake themes around them, and that's because they've been banished or the traitors sentenced to die in the Colosseum for things they've done. So whatever Messmer did, I don't think the current order was happy with. Maybe that's why he was banished, hidden away in this place. The pyromancy is very interesting. I'm wondering whether that's related in any way to the frenzied flame, or maybe that's how he got in trouble because of it. In any case, he definitely hates the tarnished. He says those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death in the embrace of Messmer's flame. Also, there's the whole impaler part of his name. We know that because in that final splash card at the end of the trailer, you see him in his full title, and we do see him wielding this massive spear in the fight. Anyway, for the final juicy bit, we got lots of different tiny gameplay clips to look at. First, we have this dual-wielding guy doing a basic combo against a candle-wielding enemy type. There's multiple of those, and they actually look like the horrible creature that pulls a spike out from itself in a later scene. An Ash of War appears to be used here, a dash to the side, which has this following attack. It's like a neat evasive dash, comparable to Bloodhound Dash, but with an attack linking it up. Next, there's some spam dagger throw here, staggering the enemy in just 4 hits, which is pretty impressive. Then we have an incantation of some kind. The character spins in purple, spreading out these butterflies, which then float and explode like bombs in a circle around them. This could be great for area control or AoE in general. Then we have this insane shot of this monk type dealing out aerial kicks, floating through the air during the combo. It looks like another Ash of War to me, which staggers this massive foe easily per kick. That's exciting. It could have really high poise damage, and maybe it'll destroy its way through shield enemies to fully stagger those when you use it. Next, we see a bomb being thrown out by this guy. It looks like a giant firebomb at that, and certainly acts like one on impact. Maybe we're going to have a new array of items to use then. So you got new throwing pots that are more potent immediately, new throwing types like the daggers that seem to stagger really well, maybe ones that are just going to be more impactful in this DLC. There's another new weapon showcase up next though, a heavy crossbow that functions like a burst fire minigun. Now we've seen these in the games before, even Elden Ring, where we'd see a few shots fire out very quickly, but this is much more like a channel, a barrage of bolts that seems like a nightmare to have to reload. But yeah, getting caught out by that should lead to some nice burst DPS or a nightmare in PvP. Then there's this fast clip of a very clear roar. This is like a dragon transformation, just with a different theme. Kind of bear, but has red hair like maybe a lion's mane. It also has horns on the end, definitely making me think of that strange boss fight creature, and this is a continued theme we'll see with weird animal combinations. Either way, it's a new transformation incantation with a different theme, not tied to dragons. In this beautiful blue area shot, we have a fight between 2 tarnished models. One is wearing that familiar red cloak of Messmer, so you might imagine they're associated. However, she's dressed and flowing and spinning in that fight in a familiar way. It really reminds me of, say, the Blue Dancer charm in the original game, which is a very lore-vital character tied to Melania. This red character is new to me though, and if related to Messmer compared to the Blue Dancer and Melania, maybe that's a really important connection to make. Next, we have a mounted foe channeling a sort of purple lightning blow, and then this massive weird animal, a rhino-hippo-crocodile combo. It has a horn on the end of its snout, the jaw makes me think of a hippo, the way it's coming at you is like a crocodile. It's interesting to see these animal combos though. It stops and channels out this holy sound, like using an incantation, exploding with these bristles. And then there's another combo creature, this one's much more horrifying. It uses a boomerang style throw, and it's riding a half-dead decomposed horse, but it could also be that it is actually part of the horse, like a parasite or something. The last gameplay thing I caught during the Messmer fight at the end is the player using an Ash or incantation that is familiar, spreading out their wings, rising up like a crucible knight. They're preparing what looks to be a new twin blade weapon, while wielding also a new shield that has a spike on its end. The crucible knights often would use this attack, with wings raising up, then charging forward, so I am expecting much the same from the attack we don't fully see here. But yes, that has to be everything I can say for the trailer on my initial comb through. I've made this video instantly after seeing the trailer for like a couple hours. I've been combing through the trailer over and over, so this video will be coming out not long after the original trailer launch. I imagine the community is in uproar with theories, details, and they'll be combing it aggressively as well. So there's going to be lots more we can learn from this trailer before long, lots of interesting new speculation, and hopefully there'll be more trailers before the full launch, you know, giving us more to talk about. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.